Two.
Happy November, Ram fans. Welcome back to another week of CTV Sports. I'm Ella Fredrickson.
And I'm Mike Walsh, and here are your top stories for the week.
CSU Football aims to rebound after a blowout loss to Boise State on the blue turf, gearing up for another formidable Mountain West foe on the road.
CTV feature reporter Madeline Davis and our very own Ruby Kayser break down the upcoming volleyball rematch between CSU and San Jose State.
And out-of-pocket returns as two unique names go through and select the high school football playoff bracket.
All that and more on CTV Sports, which starts right now. Oh, Jesus.
Although it hurts to start on such a bad note, let's view it as getting the ugly out of the way. Over the weekend, the Green and Gold took the trip north to Idaho in an attempt to beat Boise for the first time ever. Commit into this one, it was known the Broncos would be a tough competitor, sitting at the top of the conference, beating everyone in the Mountain West who has stood in their way. And what better way to take on the top team than with a new roster and a ton of walk-ons, 11 to be exact, all of which were playing in critical points during the game. Now to end the suspense I'm sure you're all feeling, CSU went down big time, putting the Rams at an even 2-2 in conference play. Now, like the loss against Utah State not too long ago, the goal is to not only find some positives, but also to break down the negatives and ways to improve. Now, the final nail in the coffin during this entire game for CSU was Boise's rushing game. It was evident that they had control of that field the entire time, ending with 321 yards on that field in just the first half alone. It seemed like whenever Boise was able to get into the red zone, they pushed their way through. Once they passed that 20-yard mark, it was evident that they were going to get another 6 points, whether CSU liked it or not. Boise was going to break not just one tackle, two tackle, but pretty much every single guy who tried to stop him on the field, he was going to get past. Now, in this one, redshirt freshman quarterback Green just started 3 weeks ago for Boise, but still managed to go 24 for 30 on his passes. But fortunately, CSU did see a bright spot from Clay Millen here when he actually had room in the pocket, believe it or not, passing 4 sacks earlier in the game. He was able to launch one to freshman Justice Ross Simmons and actually get some points out of this one that weren't from Boyle. He went through a route right between 2 Boise defenders and was able to sneak past a tackle for 6 points. Now, Green came through with this one for Boise, ending with 305 yards. Now, I would love to see this kind of consistency from a beginning quarterback for CSU, but unfortunately, it's just not happening for Millen. Things in the first half were kept relatively under control, only down 18 at the break. So thus far, the 27.5-point underdog Rams were covering the spread. But regardless, that would soon change as it was clear Boise owned this game from the beginning. By the time the clock had struck 0, the Broncos managed to destroy the Rams in every single category, almost doubling their passing yards, and, well, when it came to rushing, CSU left with just 3 in comparison to Boise's staggering 209. The Broncos would keep 7 in the box, and Fort Air Raid still decided to run the ball even when outnumbered. And as sarcastic and passive-aggressive as this may sound, putting 10 points on the board is not a bad accomplishment when you only manage 6 first downs. I can't say I was surprised. I mean, given CSU's reputation this year, going into undoubtedly the toughest road environment in the Mountain West against arguably the league's best team was not a recipe for success. CSU will pack the bags again this week, traveling farther west to California for a date with San Jose State late Saturday. But enough with football. Mike, how did we stand in volleyball?
Thanks, Ella. Well, let's just say CSU Volleyball had an outing that made Ram fans a little bit happier than football, reciprocating Thursday's 4-set win with yet another one this past Saturday against Fresno State. The match was a hard-fought one throughout as the score was tight in just about every set. However, the Rams shined when it came to closing out sets, whereas their opponent, Fresno State, just couldn't record those crunch time points. Veteran leader Sierra Pritchard was a force on both offense and defense, accumulating 43 assists and 14 digs. And of course, we can't forget about the front line of Kennedy Stanford, who muscled 16 kills, while her counterpart, Karina Lieber, registered 4 blocks. And granted, Fresno State is bad, like really bad. sitting dead last in conference with 0 wins. So the Rams may not have had the cleanest match, but hey, a win is a win. And considering that, let's take a glimpse into just how close this one actually was. As we analyze the box score, you can see that the Bulldogs actually bested the Rams in almost every section, finishing the game with 3 more kills as well as 2 more assists and blocks. However, the Rams did finish with more digs, and nevertheless, these Fresno State's numbers illustrate that maybe the stats don't always tell the full story. But the Rams now look ahead into a new week featuring most notably the league's frontrunners, San Jose State. Thursday's clash is a must-win for CSU as the Spartans will charge with a season sweep on their minds. But more on that later in the show. Now let's transition back to the outdoors. Ella, how did Sarah Carter and company race on Friday?
Yeah, Mike, I'll add to that good news, as cross country placed second in both men's and women's races at the Mountain West Championships up in Laramie. The top 14 finishers in each run earned all Mountain West honors, and with a second place showing, that yielded a lot of Rams to receive that acknowledgement. We'll start in the women's 6K, where Lily Tomasula Martin paced the squad at just over 20 minutes. Annabelle Stafford was just 1 second behind her at 10th overall, and Carter wasn't too far behind as well, clocking at just 6 seconds beyond Stafford. The flurry of these performances accounted for 61 points as a team. Meanwhile, redshirt senior Thomas Chaston led the way for the men at 23 minutes and 41 seconds. Mason Brown followed suit at 7th right behind him, and 4 other Rams would round it out from 11th to 14th, with times literally as close together as you can get. The herd was real, and it contributed to 47 points total. The cross-country season is flying by, and the NCAA Mountain Regional is nearly above the horizon, just 2 weeks out. We'll see if Colorado State's 2 national rankings can help in that, because it did for this one. But Mike, let's head back to the court. Is it already basketball season?
Thanks for that quick update, Ella. And well, it's not quite in full swing yet. The first game is quickly approaching. CSU men's hoops played another exhibition this past Friday and looked as ready as ever for the upcoming season, beating Metro State by almost 40 points. The Rams were fierce in this one, and although it was just an exhibition game, we saw our presumed starters get big minutes. Players like John Tanjay and Isaiah Rivera looked solid and seemed to cash in buckets from wherever they wanted. But a huge key in this one was the post presence. Guys like James Moores and Patrick Cartier used their size to corral rebounds and force themselves closer to the net. And yet the road owners did keep a pace, but as the game progressed, CSU simply put their foot on the gas and they never let up. And despite it being a preseason matchup, Ram fans all over should be encouraged and excited for the upcoming season. With the leadership of some of these veteran players, Colorado State could definitely make some serious noise once again. And speaking of the start to the season, let's see how the early slate stacks up. 8 slots in, and we already know Fort Collins will be buzzing, starting with 3 straight games at home before traveling all the way to Charleston, South Carolina to participate in the Shriners Children's Charleston Classic. And just 6 days after that, it's back to Moby for another 3 before heading down to Boulder for a highly anticipated rivalry showdown with the Buffs. And tune in to CAC's closeout on Thursday night for an even more detailed preview of the Rams basketball on both sides for the 2022 and 2023 campaign.
And now for a team whose run is officially over. Rams soccer ended its disappointing season in what else but disappointing fashion last Thursday, giving up a season-high 4 goals in a shutout loss to Wyoming. Suffice to say, the Cowgirls were a handy draw, sitting atop the Mountain West Conference. But CSU faithful were surely expecting a bit more, especially for Senior Day. Of course, the Rams surrendered a lot of goals, but the main issue was CSU's inability to capitalize on offense. Though the pressure was there, consistent saves and covering plays by the defense stifled any attacking chances, leaving the Rams frustrated and annoyed. It was a chippy contest too, with Wyoming racking up 11 fouls. But in the end, the aggressive scheme boasted well. The loss was certainly a downer, but it didn't take away from the team camaraderie this group has built during the course of this season. Rams forward Caroline Lucas reflected on this following the match. Listen in.
I definitely think the people that I've met here at this program, we just talked about it in our huddle, and I don't really think any of us are going to remember the wins or the losses necessarily, but, you know, the family dynamic that we have here, they're just some of the best people I've ever met, and I know that I've made friends for life.
That's good to hear, especially with the way the last couple of months have panned out. And expanding on this, senior Elise Evers had some words of advice for the new class that'll come next year.
I'd say just persevere, go push through, work your hardest, and control the controllables. Definitely effort's a big thing and something that has been a theme for us this season and something that we need to stick to.
We sincerely appreciate their tenure as Rams and to all the other seniors on the club and wish them the best post-graduation. When we come back, it's all or nothing for CSU Volleyball's Mountain West Crown hopes as the Rams set to battle San Jose State this Thursday in round 2.
Plus, we'll recap the Front Range's Game of the Week in high school football. All of that and more right here on CTV Sports.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What? I can't drive. But why? My. Oh.
From the break, Rams, remember that heartbreaking 5-set loss in Moby Arena to San Jose State a little over 3 weeks ago? Well, it's finally time for some revenge.
And it couldn't come at a more perfect time because the Spartans have been extremely vulnerable recently, dropping 2 of their last 3. CTV feature reporter Madeline Davis stands alongside Ruby Kayser to discuss this crucial meeting in the Golden State. Madeline?
Thanks, Mike. And yeah, while the Spartans have been struggling as of late, they're still dangerous, tied for second in the Mountain West with Colorado State. Just 1 game behind UNLV. Not to mention the earlier loss Ella alluded to that CSU suffered. With that in mind, Ruby is with me for an inside scoop on what to expect in round 2 between these 2 programs. So, first of all, obviously a little bit of a disappointing loss, but they have been on a little bit of a down streak, and you guys have been absolutely excelling. So, what do you think is kind of the focus when it comes to their offense and like what you guys can do to kind of stop them?
Yeah, I think San Jose State has some really terminal and gutsy outside hitters, meaning they're just going for it. They're brave. They swing on hard out-of-system balls. You can see Fleming, Nelson, and Harper on the outside pins, switching both between outside and right side. So it really just splits the offense and makes it hard for our blockers to get in front of them. And I think that's one of the main things. They're really good at attacking the perimeters, high hands. They're very junky, so every once in a while you see them throw in some different stuff like you just saw Nelson there. And they're brave. They just have hard arms and they're really going for it.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, obviously, they have a strong offense. We can see that right now. We saw that in the match. I mean, it seemed like they were always on top of the net and they always found a hole. What about their defense?
Yeah, I think you can see Sarah Smeevbog in the libero jersey, and she's amazing. She's gotten 2 defensive Mountain West honors this year. She really covers a lot of court, and so I think we need to just really focus on keeping the ball away from her in defense and in serve receive. And then you'll also see them do some unique things. They'll triple block on out-of-system balls, so you'll see the outside come all the way to the right side to block Kennedy on an out-of-system ball, which you really just don't see very often. They also set their own out-of-system balls inside, which will make it difficult for our blockers. They'll have to adjust on that.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously, they just took a loss to Air Force, and Air Force is not particularly one of the strongest teams in the conference. What did Air Force do that helped reach that win?
Yeah, I think that was surprising that Air Force kind of beat them at their own game. They were attacking high hands, taking gutsy swings. They were kind of junking around, and they just didn't make errors. I think San Jose State had 29 errors compared to Air Force's 13, and that's not by coincidence. I think Air Force really forced them to make those errors by playing such hard volleyball. And I think one thing that's really powerful is that they have a lot of offense out of the middle, and so you'll see Joy Harvey and Mac Russ in the middle, and they cause a lot of problems for them. And so I think that's going to be really big for the Rams, trying to get the ball to the middle, which means passing well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm incredibly excited to watch this match, and I wish that all the fans in Moby could see it again. But if the Rams are able to steal a win on the road, that would be huge in their quest back to the conference peak. Mike, back over to you.
Thanks, Madeline. We'll now transition to what our sports director, Brandon, thinks at least is the best content of the day. This past weekend, we saw the last games of league play for Fort Collins area high school football teams, with Rocky losing in lopsided fashion to Fairview 24-7, and a proverbial toilet bowl between league bottom dwellers Fort Collins and Boulder, with Coach Yems Lambkins prevailing 33-6. But the marquee matchup was, of course, the battle between Poudre and Fossil Ridge. And in what was supposed to be a thrilling affair, turned out to be the complete opposite. Unfortunately for the Umpalas, nothing seemed to work. They continually tried to open up lanes for Warkhurst running back Jordan Neesent, but it was an impossible feat against the stiff front of 7 of the Sabercats. And if that wasn't enough, a potent offensive attack from Coach Fulton's squad was overwhelming, with senior quarterback Tyler Kubat amassing 234 yards and 3 touchdowns through the air. And to add to that, sophomore Colton Powlick pounded the rock to the tune of 74 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Sabercats saw themselves in firm control of the game at half, 21-0. But Fossil did not stop after the half either, keeping the Poudre offense off the scoreboard for all of the third quarter, and despite solid efforts by the Impalas to get the ground and air attack going. But Kubat found fellow senior Trek Keyworth open in the end zone, extending the lead to the 31-0. And it would improve to 38 late in the fourth quarter, courtesy of Powlick cut to the outside. But the starting defense was replaced by the second and third string players, and excluding a garbage time touchdown throw by Quinton Arms, as time expired, the defense pitched a shutout the entire game, leading to a final score of 38-6. So this victory for the Sabercats sees them finish as the city champions for the second year in a row at an impressive 8-2 tally, with Poudre right behind them at 7-3. And both teams are set to play in the CHSAA 5A football playoffs, with Fossil as a 10 seed and having home field advantage. Here's what Keyworth had to say regarding the matter after the win.
Man, it's huge. I mean, it's the first playoff game Fossil Ridge is going to host home. I mean, you see our student section up there. They're pretty rowdy, and it's always good to play in front of a home crowd and not have to travel. So I think that's going to be a pretty big factor. It's just going to be a lot of fun.
And I'm sure there'll be plenty of black and green in the bleachers as the Sabercats fight Mullen later this week in the first round. And with that, Rams, we'll take another break.
But don't go anywhere just yet, because after this break, get ready for an out-of-pocket on mascot favorites and a breakdown of the high school football playoff bracket. You certainly won't want to miss it.
Living with someone you don't know on the other side of the wall is hard, especially if you don't know how to be a good roommate. The first thing that you'll want to do to be a good roommate is make sure that you always stay quiet. Be considerate of others when using common spaces and appliances.
Hey buddy, what you doing?
I'm just gonna need like 40 minutes. Be respectful of your roommate's privacy.
Ugh, my bad.
Finally, make sure that you clean up after yourself. Oh, fresh toothbrush.
Have you seen my toothbrush?
Follow these tips to get along with your roommates and your landlord.
Welcome back from the break, Rams. Now we're going to kick off Out of Pocket with a little fun. This is the unique time of the year when all 4 major sports plus college athletics are in action. And you know what that means. Plenty of mascots that get to hit our screen. So guys, today's question is just that. What is the best mascot in all of sports? I gotta be real here.
I was going to say, I know you're passionate, so you go ahead and start us off, Madeline.
I love mascots. I love them. I think they are so fun. My dream is to be a mascot, but unfortunately, you have to be between the height of 5'4" and 5'9", and I am not.
I didn't know that,
I can't be a mascot. But I have 3 standouts. My standouts are Blooper, the Atlanta Braves mascot,
He's a good one.
because he is a menace on Twitter. He makes me laugh so much. the Philly Fanatic, because, I mean, as you can see right there.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
How can it get much better than that with, like, the tongue that comes out? And then another Philadelphia classic, kind of a new one, too, Gritty. If you don't know what Gritty is, go look him up. Yesterday for Halloween, he dressed as, like, Ryan Reynolds' Barbie. It was fantastic. And so those are my 3 standouts. They all have their positives. You know, Blooper, great on Twitter. Philly Fanatic, a classic. But when it comes to best, I'm going to go to the mascot that was on my 17th birthday cake and go with Gritty.
Although I don't want to hate on your birthday cake, Madeline, I'm going to have to disagree and go with your maybe second choice, the Philadelphia Fanatic. This may seem like an obvious choice because he is one of the most known mascots in all of professional sports. He just gives me that nostalgic, loving baseball, you know, hot dog and popcorn feeling that other mascots don't give me. And don't get me wrong, I'm not even a diehard Phillies fan. Like, I like the Phillies, hope they beat the Astros kind of thing. But I'm not the biggest fan. I'm a Red Sox fan, and while I love Wally, great guy, he just doesn't do it for me. I mean, the Philadelphia Fanatic, he tells it how it is. He's a very, very honest mascot, and I know they don't talk, but like, you know what I mean.
But, like, I get it.
The attitude. The attitude.
Exactly.
So that's who I have to go with. Right, exactly. They do talk on Twitter. Ruby? I'm going to have to bring it to college sports, and I have a real soft spot for live mascots. And so I'm going to go with Traveler and Tommy Trojan from USC. I grew up as a USC fan, going to the games when I was little, and my mom would always walk me down to the field to go say hi to Traveler. And Tommy Trojan, how could you not love him? He stabs the sword into the middle of the field. I just have so many great memories, and Traveler's just like, so majestic, white horse with like its hair flowing in the wind. Victory lap around the field when they score a touchdown. What could be better than that? No, I completely agree.
I'm also going with the hometown option here. I'm going with Benny the Bull. I just think he's the most fun mascot in sports. He's all throwing popcorn on people, making fun of the other team. It's great stuff from Benny the Bull.
And while we could talk about this all day, I know one of Ruby's other favorite mascots is the Sabercats.
Of course.
And so let's shift the focus to something a bit more local. High school football. Brandon, take it away.
Yes, Madeline. Well, Skill Ridge, first of all. And second, instead of us spewing high school football facts, stats, and general information through my anchors who are a little iffy on the subject, the experts have finally arrived. Gideon and I join here today to pick the CHSAA 5A high school football playoff bracket. Gideon's from the Playmakers Corner, so let's get into it with the Quadrant 1. Gideon, this is your side of the bracket. Who do you like?
So here we have Cherry Creek, Fountain Fort Carson, Eagle Crest, Thunder Ridge, Doherty, and Arapahoe. Now, Cherry Creek and Arapahoe do have the bye, so I'm going to focus on Fountain Fort Carson versus Eagle Crest first.
Okay.
Fountain Fort Carson and Eagle Crest both ended the season against top 8 opponents. Fountain Fort Carson played Regis Jesuit, and Eagle Crest played Arapahoe. Fountain Fort Carson beat Regis Jesuit 21-14, while Eagle Crest lost to Arapahoe 38-0. I dare say Fountain Fort Carson here is probably going to take the win. Next, we have Thunder Ridge versus Doherty. Now, Doherty slipped into the playoffs as the 24 seed. They're here because they don't suck as much as the rest of their conference. Thunder Ridge is a very consistently good team, so Thunder Ridge.
Perfect.
Next up, we have Cherry Creek versus Fountain Fort Carson. The entirety of Cherry Creek could tear their ACLs, and Fountain Fort Carson probably still wouldn't win. So I'm going to go Cherry Creek here. What's going to be closer, on the other hand, is Thunder Ridge versus Arapahoe. Both of these are extremely quality teams.
Yes.
And Thunder Ridge, their only loss of the season so far is to Valor Christian, who is the 2 seed. Now, Arapahoe, they are 6-4 on the year, but those 4 losses are to really good teams.
Yeah.
But Arapahoe has been rather inconsistent against those really good teams, while Thunder Ridge has been more consistently good. As such, I'm going to go with Thunder Ridge here.
Okay, perfect. So now we have Cherry Creek and Thunder Ridge in, excuse me, I'm going to get out of the way here. Thunder Ridge, so we have Cherry Creek and Thunder Ridge. Gideon, who do you like going to the Final Four?
I like Cherry Creek. As long as Thunder Ridge is starting Cooper Keir at quarterback, I do not see them winning this. They need to play a near-perfect game, and that's not something that Keir has had all season, especially against a team as good as Cherry Creek.
Okay, perfect. So Cherry Creek goes to the Final Four. Now we're going to go to Quadrant 2. We'll start, Grandview gets the bye, Mount Vista versus hometown favorite Rocky Mountain.
So Rocky Mountain, They do not have an air game. Rocky Mountain, their starting quarterback only has 210 passing yards on the year, 1 touchdown. For a playoff team, that is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Mountain Vista, additionally, has one of the better run defenses in the state and an extremely dynamic offense. And as such, I do not see Rocky Mountain pulling this one out. Thomason and Chatilla are not enough.
Okay.
Then we have Legacy versus Arvada West. Long story short, Arvada West has not done particularly well against teams as good as Legacy this year. I'm taking Legacy.
Okay, perfect. So now we have Grandview and Mountain Vista in the Sweet 16.
Yes, so we have Grandview Mountain Vista. Grandview, they're a really good team. At the end of the season, they managed to beat the #1 team in the state, a nationally ranked team in Cherry Creek.
Yes.
Mountain Vista, while they are good, haven't really faced anything of that caliber and certainly haven't come close to winning. So as such, I see Grandview moving on in this matchup.
Okay, and then Legacy Pine Creek.
Legacy Pine Creek, it's a similar situation where we see Pine Creek, they are a really good team, really well coached. You see they have they are pretty battle tested. Legacy, they are a good team. There is a world where Legacy wins this game. I just see it happening more often than not, 6 times out of 10, 7 times out of 10, where Pine Creek wins.
Okay, so now we have Grandview and Pine Creek in the Elite 8. Gideon, who do you like going to the Final Four?
Honestly, this one I could see coming down to even a 1-point game. But honestly, I see Grandview coming through it. Especially when you get to the playoffs, it's a lot about, are you battle tested? Do you have the hard road there? Grandview, they do theoretically have the harder road there, but we're just going to have to watch as we go along. But I could see it going either way. My pick, though, is Grandview.
Okay, so we have Grandview winning Quadrant 2, Gideon. So now we're going to go to Quadrant 3. This is my side of the bracket. Valor Christian gets the bye as a 2 seed, but we're going to go to Legend and Pooter. Now, Pooter had a tough loss. We heard it earlier in the show, got destroyed by Fossil.
Very tough.
But they need to forget about that. I think Pooter is a real deal. They have a very balanced offensive game when Quinn Harms is on his game. So I like Pooter to beat Legend in that first matchup. Now we go to Fossil Ridge Mullen. Fossil Ridge coming off a big win. Fossil Ridge's offense is very impressive. I mean, Tyler Kubat back from injury really helps. So I like Fossil Ridge moving past Mullen. So now we get into the Sweet 16, we have Valor Christian against Pooter. I like Valor Christian moving on to that. I don't really think it'll be close. And then we have Regis against Fossil Ridge. I like Fossil Ridge pulling off the upset. I think they've been having a great streak as of late, so I like Fossil Ridge moving into that matchup. And now we get to the Valor Christian Fossil Ridge. Now, I am not biased. I'm an objective journalist, so I'm going to go with Valor Christian over Fossil Ridge. So now we get to the Quadrant 4. We have Ralston Valley. They're going to get the bye. Fairview, Chatfield. I do like Fairview. They're coming off a big conference win They have wins over Fossil Ridge and Pooter. So I like Fairview against Chatfield. Then we have Rock Canyon, Cherokee Creek. I also like Rock Canyon in that one. So now we get to Ralston Valley, Fairview. I think Ralston Valley is a sweet team. They're actually your sleeper team to make it all the way, I think, to the championship, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we have Ralston Valley moving past Fairview, and then Rock Canyon, Columbine. I'm a really big Columbine fan, so I'm going to go with Columbine in this one against Ralston Valley. So now that brings us to the Final Four, Gideon. I think we can both agree Cherry Creek is going to get the win over Grandview. It might be close, though. And I actually like Columbine to get the upset over Valor Christian. I'm not too confident in that pick, but I think Columbine is the real deal, and they have a really strong offensive and defensive game overall.
Yeah. Columbine has a really good run game, but if they're healthy, they can make it. And Grandview has a real target on their back. So, but we both agree that Cherry Creek is going to win.
Yeah,
this.
Cherry Creek is going to take it, and that'll take care of the bracket. Cherry Creek second straight champions in Colorado. And while Gideon and I could surely talk about high school football all night, that's all the time we have. Make sure to tune in to the always fun Ramboozle tomorrow to see some Greek life leaders, Dukes, out for some fraternity and sorority trivia in an attempt to win that grand prize. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you have a great night, and we'll see you then.